What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast, home of people, politics, and of course, popular culture. I'm your host, Austin Creed, and my friends. I want to welcome you into the morning show. So, I mentioned yesterday in the last other two shows I did, I don't assume that everybody listens to every show that I do. But, suffice to say, last couple days I've been out of town. And it was really interesting. And the reason why it was interesting is, as a younger person, I've been through certain chapters of life. And every chapter of life it's never the same length. As just in the same way that chapters in a book tend to fluctuate, chapters of your life will fluctuate as well. And it's really difficult as a younger person to navigate the winds of change, to ride on them instead of having them just push you. Just push you in any direction that you're going, and you're kind of going along, kicking and screaming every single way, or you're just being blown on your face and you don't know what's going on. So I want to talk about how to ride the winds of change. When you're in high school, when you're in middle school, you usually have, not everybody does, but to an extent you have consistency there. Whether it's 4 years of high school in the same place, or you might be split up. But you tend to have 4 years of, you kind of learn the system, and just when you start to enjoy it is when you graduate high school and you move on to college, or you just jump right into the workforce. Either way, your life is changing. And what you've been doing before is not going to work for what you're doing now. For me, I inserted the military in there as well, so I had to get used to the military climate and get used to taking orders, following orders, getting used to the climate and how things worked, what to do, what not to do. And it was during those changes in my life that I realized, I don't know if everybody has this realization, it's entirely possible. However, the winds of change are inevitable. I don't care if you live out in the middle of Kansas somewhere in a wheat field. The changes are going to come. They'll find you. The question is, are you the one cultivating the change, or are you just reacting to the change that is thrown your way? Because if you can cultivate your own change, you can control the process a little bit more, and it can work for you instead of you having to work in spite of it. I'll give you an example. I've said on the show before that I believe it is every person's duty to be rich and a sin to be poor. And when I say that, I mean it is I'll define sin before. Sin is transgression of the law. Now, that it could mean man's law, that could be God's law, it makes no difference. Now, if you are sowing the seeds of success in your life, you're pursuing a worthy goal, you know what you want to do, you have a general idea, and you're pursuing it every day because you want to, not because you feel like you have to, but because you actually want to and you enjoy it. In doing so, you will cultivate change on your terms more often than someone who's just reacting to whatever life throws their way, whatever happens there to them. You want to live with action and not live in a constant state of reaction. Because trust me, when it comes down to it, you'll have plenty of time to react to what comes your way. But when you felicitate the change, when you solicit success and chasing and pursuing it, things will work out for you instead of in spite of you. I'll give you an example. Let's say for example that you want to own a small business, right? If you want to own a small business, you're going to spend every waking hour of that day saying, hey, I want this to launch properly. I want this to take off. I want this to be better than it was yesterday, right? And in doing so, you'll cultivate change in your life. You'll make the necessary preparations. You'll make the necessary changes to your personal life, to the business plan. You will go out of your way, whether on purpose or even subconsciously, to felicitate the change instead of it coming out of left field and giving you a right hook. And then you gotta respond to it and pull yourself off the ground and say, ugh, oh, that sucked. All right, okay, well, what do I do now? You know, having to play catch up. I know people on my college campus right now, they talk about how, you know, I want to graduate, and I say, okay, that's great. Well, but what do you want to do after that? And they kind of just look at me like, well, I don't know. I'll figure that out when I get there. And I just hold my head and I'm like, what? But if you don't know where you want to go, then you can't get mad if you don't end up where you want to end up, if you even know where that is. That's the equivalent of saying, hey, I want to go on a trip from one port to another. And I have a whole crew assembled. I hire a great captain and I sail out. I'm going to reach my destination, right? Because I took the necessary time, the preparation. I set everything in motion. And I made sure that even if a storm hits or say some problem happens with the boat, that I have people on board who can troubleshoot the problem, who can navigate the choppy waters, and we'll make it there. But taking the example of the student who just wants to graduate, but they have no idea what the hell they want to do after that, that's the equivalent of taking the crew and the captain off the ship, putting a rock, you know in the old movies when they would like put a rock on the gas pedal of a car and the car would just go forward? Yeah, imagine the boat is in the same harbor, you just take the crew and the captain off the ship, you put a rock on the gas pedal of the boat, and you want it to reach that same harbor. If it even gets out of the harbor you're in, it's not going to reach the port of destination. It's probably going to land on some beach somewhere, or going to ram into another ship, or ram into some rock. And then you're going to sit there wondering why. Oh, how did this happen? I don't know what's going on. In that example, that sounds dumb, right? Well, then why does it sound equally stupid when you apply it to your own life and you say, well, I kind of know what I don't want, but I also have no idea how to achieve what I actually want? What? Again, it all goes back to, if you want to ride the winds of change, you have to know what changes you want to make in your life. If you want to stay the same, that's a sin, because people are moving forward. The world is moving forward. And if you don't move forward, you're going to fall behind. It is a natural way of everything to grow and change and adapt to the environment. But what if you can cultivate the environment itself? Then there's no need for you to change. All you gotta do is change the environment, because you'll naturally change with it as you're cultivating this new place, this new area, this new chapter in your life. This might sound silly, I realize that. I realize it might sound silly to some of you, it might seem far-fetched, it might seem weird, I get all that, I understand it. When I was first learning this, I thought it was silly too. I said, oh, what the hell are you talking about? This is ridiculous. How do I do that? I mean, it sounds great, but how do you actually, realistically speaking, go about doing these things? Well, I like to answer questions with a question, because people have different lives. They have different experiences. They have different stimuli in their life. And when it comes down to it, if I just give you the answer that worked for me, it might just not apply to your life. So I want to answer your question with a question of, how can I make this work? How do I actually ride the winds of change in my life? Well, what does your life look like right now? What are you doing in your life? Are you in a place you want to be, doing what you want to be doing? If the answer is no, and it sounds like you need some change in your life, but you need the kind of change that's going to get you to where you want to go, not just where you think other people want you to go, or maybe where you should be. None of that. All that is a waste of time and taking the zigzaggy scenic route to actually getting to where you want to go. Now, if you don't even know where you want to go, well, then you got to start there. If you don't know what you want out of life, then you can't cultivate the proper change to get you to where you want to go. You can't just jump in a car and drive around and be like, oh, I didn't make it to where I wanted to go. You gotta pinpoint where it is you actually want to go, and then you can get yourself there. It sounds really simple, and that's because it is very simple, actually. It's not that hard. The hardest part is deciding where you want to go, and if you actually want to go there. I hear people talk about this, and I used to talk this way too, so I don't fault them for it. But I remember a time in my life when I'd say, hey, you know what, I really would like to make YouTube videos. You know, I would really like to, do a radio show or a podcast or whatever it was. But I don't think that people would want to listen to me. I don't think that people would want to hear what I have to say. I mean, what can I possibly add? You see how negative that is? I was giving excuses for why I was not cultivating the change that I wanted to create. I was almost trying to convince myself that I didn't want what I was actively saying I wanted. Sound familiar? Don't do that stuff. There'll be enough people. I've had these people even on my show where they talk about, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're dumb, blah, 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 blah. I don't care what those people say. Most of them don't even have the mental capacity to compete with me. And that's why they're trying to drag me down, because they're sad and depressed, and they have nothing going for them in their life, and they want me to join them, and I'm not going to do it. My friends, if you don't know where you want to go in your life, once you make that choice, and you say, hey, I'm going to stop being in my own way, and I'm going to get out of my own way, and I'm going to start cultivating the winds of change to work for me, your life will change. Instead of being pushed, instead of having to, walk forward through the winds that are pushing you back, you'll be walking forward with the wind at your back, and it'll be so much easier. Because you'll actually want to do the things that you're doing. And in doing so, you'll be like, wow, this feels great. This feels amazing. Why have I not done this earlier? Yeah. It sounds simple, and that's because it is simple. You just have to actually believe what it is you want to do and do it. It's not going to be easy. No, it's not going to be easy. But it takes time. It takes time. Even with modern technology, it takes time to fly somewhere. It takes time to drive somewhere. It takes time to take a boat somewhere. It takes time to still get there. And it's not easy. So it requires fuel. It still requires time. But that doesn't make it any less worthy of going, does it? If you want to learn how to ride the winds of change, you have to be the one to cultivate the winds in the first place, so you know where they're blowing and you know exactly how to ride the winds to maximize it. I hope this encouraged you this morning. I learned a lot of these things the hard way. I don't say this as I read it in a book somewhere. No, I actively do these things. I actively do this every day. So my friends, please, I challenge you to not just walk aimlessly like someone in a dark room who doesn't know where the light switch is. Be the cultivator of the change in your life, and you will be shocked at how much easier and more streamlined your life will become. My friends, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless America. Let's tackle the day, and let's make it our own. Don't give up. The day's just starting. Let's do this right, and let's win out here. There's enough out here for everybody, and we'll all win out here. Take care, and peace.